Hey you guys, so today I am going to be trying out a bunch of new products. I have a few things kind of pulled here that I've received in PR over the past few weeks. I also asked you guys on Instagram if you had any questions for me, so I'm going to be answering a few little questions here and there throughout the video because I'm fucking running out of things to talk about with this new consistent upload schedule. Okay, let's do this. I am going to start with this fancy ass shit. This is from Guerlain. This is called the, I'm gonna butcher the fuck out of this, Abiel Royale. Is French my strong suit? Yes, I speak it fluently. I, in fact, feel more comfortable speaking French than I do English. This is the Youth Watery Oil from Guerlain. It has a little bee on it. It has little ball things in it. Excellent, my favorite. So I'm just gonna take a little healthy dose of that, and I'm going to maybe 3-4 drops, I don't know. Oh, maybe we'll like Instagram this. Whoop. Oh God, I don't know how they do it on Instagram with such confidence. I'm having a little bit of a skin breakout right now, so I figured now's the best time, if any, to try all new products that could potentially irritate my skin even further. So far so good, actually. I like the feeling of this a lot. And I like the smell. It's a lighter smell. Like I find that a lot of the Guerlain stuff is super scented, but this is actually quite nice. Ooh, Megan coming in with the like tough questions. Megan asked, has there ever been a scenario in your life you wish you could reduce? Let me spit out my gum. I didn't think you'd come in so hot with the hard-hitting questions. Before we jump into this, I got this foundation from Guerlain as well in the mail. This is the Aqua Nude Water Infused Perfecting Fluid. It looks like it's going to be the whitest, like very deeply unseasoned chicken breast white. Is that the actual foundation color I should probably be using? Absolutely, yes. But I normally go a little bit more tanned. So anyways, we're gonna see. This looks a little light for me, but we're just gonna go for it. Ooh, that is watery. Okay, one thing I wish I could redo, I'm not like big on regrets and stuff like that, but no regrets. But I do every now and again find myself wishing that I could do over makeup school for a few reasons. First of all, I had just gotten out of high school. I was like 18 when I was going to makeup school, and I was in a really shitty relationship. And I just was kind of so invested in that person that I wasn't as focused on my school as I wish I could have been. And the other thing was that I felt like when I got to special effects, especially because we started off when we were kind of like in like beauty and stuff like that. And then we moved into like more like avant-garde, airbrushing, all that kind of stuff. And then special effects was last. And I felt like by the time we got to special effects, I was just so over it. Like I was tired. I didn't really want to be in school anymore. And I feel like right at the time that we got to special effects, that was also kind of when my relationship with this person was going like really fucking south. And so I don't know, man. I didn't have my head in the game like Zac Efron. This foundation looks so bad on my skin. So bad. Just looks very, very dry. I'm going to take a few little dabs of my Natasha Denona Face Glow foundation and just kind of dot that over top in hopes that it will bring me back to life a little. Someone asked if I found any natural remedies for depression. Well, I am a big fan of ignoring any actual realistic way of dealing with my mental illness, so you came to the right place. The only real kind of like natural remedies, so to speak, that I found for kind of helping lift me out of my depression, and not ever completely, but at least make it so that I can function a little bit more, is going to the gym, which I fucking hate, but it does help. And then reading really helps me as well. I find that when I kind of like hook my phone up away from me, so it's not even like within like reach, and I just sit down with a book, it takes me a really long time to make my mind actually turn off and get into the book. But when I do, I feel like it's a really, really good escape. And when I get into the habit of reading all the time, I find that it's a really good way to kind of relax my mind, forget about what I'm worried about and what I'm upset about and what I'm feeling down about, and do something that feels more like productive, so to speak. It just feels like something that's not just sitting around, but it's still relaxing. And then probably the last thing I would say is getting out in nature. I feel like when I'm out in the woods is the only time that I feel very like at peace. I feel very like centered, like I can actually focus on what's going on right now kind of thing. Whereas like any other time in my life, I'm very distant. My mind is always a million miles an hour and thinking about something else, thinking about what I have to worry about essentially. So I feel like when I'm out in nature is the only time that I'm peaceful. For my concealer, I'm going to be trying out the MAC Studio Fix 24 Hour Smooth Wear Concealer. I'm gonna be mixing 2 shades because all of the shades they sent were really weird. They sent every single shade. I felt like all of the NCs were so unbelievably yellow and all of the NWs were so unbelievably pink. So I'm going to be mixing NW25 and NC35 and we'll just see how this goes. Someone asked what I'm planning to do when I retire from YouTube. Celebrate. I'm really hoping to kind of eventually invest in something that has some more longevity to it, like some kind of product line or something like that. Just basically get my hands into some other business. I think that like even if I did really well, like let's say I became a multi-millionaire off my affiliate links. Thank you so much. I don't think I would ever completely stop working. I'm always kind of like thinking about things that I want to do next. There's tons of things that I'd like to go back to school for. So I feel like if I'm ever in a position where I'm retiring because I am really financially stable, I'll probably go back to school for a few things. I'm really interested in psychology. I'm really interested in biology. I think it would be interesting to do some culinary arts. I think it would be interesting to get my fine arts degree. There's lots of things I would like to do. So I feel like I'd probably either go back to school or be involved in another type of business full-time. This concealer is a lot lighter coverage than I would have thought. I kind of pictured it being more like intense, and it's very scented, very, very scented. The foundation that I tried was super, super smelly, and that concealer is very scented as well, but I mean, whatever. I'm just gonna set my, oh fuck, I was gonna do my eyes first. I feel like it's a little too late now. We'll just fucking see how it goes. I'll just be careful while I'm doing my eyes. Ooh, someone said any top tips for leaving stable jobs to pursue their passion. How fun. Anybody that knows me in real life, anybody that's quite frankly passed me on the street knows that I'm a big advocate for telling people to quit their jobs. Even if they have nothing else lined up. I'm like, maybe just fucking do it, man. What's the worst that could happen? I just feel like there's so many people that I've met in my life that have such great talents, and I look at them and I'm like, oh, you could do this. Like I see like these endless possibilities for them. And there's so many people that I know that kind of just get stuck in, you know, doing what's comfortable or doing, you know, what they just happen to be in at that time, even if it's not something they're passionate about. And I think that's true for, you know, a majority of the world. I feel like a lot of people kind of slip into jobs that more so just pay the bills rather than fulfill some kind of passion of theirs. The first thing I would say is that I don't know that I agree with the rhetoric of find a job you love and you'll never work another day in your life. There's a lot of things that we love doing, but when they become a job, it is work. And there will be days where you don't want to do that thing and you don't want to work and you're tired and you feel exhausted and drained. And especially if you're somebody working in creative fields, it's really, really hard to be creative for a job, because those of you that enjoy makeup but makeup isn't your job, if you just sat down at the end of every day and you did your makeup, you'd be doing it for fun because you enjoy it, because whatever kind of thing, and you would know that like there's no pressure behind it because nobody's paying attention to what you're doing. You're just doing your makeup and wiping it off and going to bed. Whereas when it becomes a job in that you're sitting down and you're kind of being like not forced, but for lack of a better word, you are being forced to create every single day, you start to really run out of, you know, that kind of like juice and that ability to just come up with things out of nowhere because you just feel your creativity being drained so much every day. So I think that's something to keep in mind. I'm just going to quickly do my brows. But when it comes to making that big switch from something that you are currently doing to something that you want to be doing, I think the biggest thing is to be patient. A lot of people feel like because they made that big switch and because they put themselves in a vulnerable position that they should be having it pay off really quickly. A lot of the times people can get caught in this idea of like, well, why is this person doing better than I am? And I think it's just important to be patient and to understand that, you know, everyone's time will come, and it just feels a lot more urgent when it's something you're passionate about. And I think the other big thing is that if you're considering making that switch from something that is stable to something that's a little bit more unstable, but it's what you enjoy, I think it's just important to ask yourself, like, what is the worst case scenario truly? Like, if things went so south, like so far downhill, you made the biggest mistake of your life by doing this, what is the absolute worst case scenario? And then you just kind of have to weigh the pros and cons. Like, is it worth, you know, whatever your absolute downside is. Because for me, I didn't have a choice, I was fired, but leaving my stable job, well, it was an entry-level job. So it wasn't like I couldn't have, you know, gotten that job back or gotten a similar job back. It's just scary, and more so than anything, it has to do with people's kind of self-confidence and whether or not they feel like they actually can make this happen, and that's usually what it ends up coming down to. I also think it's a good idea when you're making a career switch, and especially to a career that is something that you're passionate about, I think it's a good idea to set your goals and ask why those goals are your goals in the first place. You know, when people are kind of getting into social media, a lot of the times they're like, well, I want this many followers. Why? Why do you want that many followers? Why do you need that many followers? What is that going to do for you? And there's no wrong answer. Like, it's not like if you said for money or because I want fame or whatever, that would be the wrong answer. It's just good to have a clear idea of what it is that you're actually seeking, and also ask yourself, like, what are you willing to do to get there? Because a lot of people kind of disillusion themselves into thinking that it's about something other than what it actually is. So they have a really hard time actually attaining those goals because they feel like they're working towards something else. And I think it's good to every now and again reevaluate those goals. Where are you at in terms of that goal that you're working towards? Is that still your goal? Has your goal changed since? Wow, that was a really, really long answer to your question. I'm so sorry. My little bun's really having a rough go here. Okay, for our eyes, I'm going to be using the new Huda Beauty Amethyst Obsessions palette. She recently came out with 5 of these little palettes, and they're all so nice. All 5 of the palettes had a really nice kind of like range of more unique colors and some good range of textures as well. Like, she has her mattes, she has her shimmers, and then she has like really intense shimmers, more like dual chromes. So it's just a really good little range of colors and textures and stuff like that in that small little palette. So I'm gonna be using that today. Purple, you guys ask for it all the time. Here it is. I'll zoom you in to my little crinkly face. So I'm gonna start with that kind of lighter matte color. Someone asked me, you guys are asking bomb questions tonight. Someone asked, how do you get the courage to create boundaries for yourself and not let people walk all over you? This is a really interesting question. I'm gonna be taking my Smith 230 brush with that lighter color, and I'm going to bring it into my crease and outer corner, like always. I feel like creating boundaries is something that I've really struggled with because not to toot my own horn, but I really like to kind of like go out of my way for my friends. Like, I like to provide for them. And especially with friends in the industry, I feel like I go really far out of my way to try and like help them and answer their questions and do whatever I can for them and stuff like that. And I feel like it's really hard because something that I've kind of noticed in myself and other people who tend to be generous with their friends is that a lot of the times people who are like me, they give themselves out and give themselves out and give themselves out. And then when things go south with that person, they're like, that person used me. I've done this so many times in my life where I felt really used by people, but looking back, it really came down to I was making the decision to help that person. So how can I basically hand out what I'm handing out, and then when they reach for it, say, no, don't do that. You're using me. And so it was something that I kind of had to really come to terms with, because I was like, okay, well, what are my options here? Am I gonna stop doing this? Like, stop being the person that I am so that I don't get hurt down the road? Or am I gonna be just more selective? And I feel like that's kind of what I've tried to do, although I don't know how successful I've been. I also feel like I've tried really hard to kind of cut down on the amount of people I interact with. I'm gonna grab this slightly deeper shade. So I feel like that's something that I've kind of had to snap out of a little bit, is just kind of sticking to the people that I know are really my friends and really kind of there for me. I'm gonna take this across my whole fucking lid. But yeah, I feel like it just came down to me kind of looking at my own behavior rather than trying to like point the finger at everyone else and say that everyone else was like stepping all over me. I kind of tried to look at like what behaviors I was putting into place that made me feel like I was being walked all over, and say like, okay, was that actually other people taking advantage of me, or was that the situation was perfectly fine until we were no longer friends, and then I felt frustrated about a situation that was perfectly fine in the beginning. I hope that answered your question in a very roundabout way. Okay, I'm gonna take this little color here. I don't know if that was a good answer or not. I'm not sure. Someone said, do you find that living in Canada has made it difficult to be an influencer since everyone else lives in LA? I've been asked this by so many people. It's really hard because like the truth is that how would I know? Oh, that color's not showing up on my eyeball at all. That's really sad. Okay, I'm gonna try and put that on with my finger. Oh, that didn't really work either. Okay, well that color's just a dud. But I guess I'll kind of like try and even this out as much as I can. I think the biggest thing for me is that I don't care, because even if I was to make way more money living in LA, and even if I was to get way more exposure and all that kind of shit, I still wouldn't want to live there. I just really like living in Canada, and I like being close to my family. Short answer, don't know. Long answer, don't care. Ew. Anyways, that color sucked, so I'm just gonna fuck myself. Ooh. Someone asked, how do you feel about canceling brands? I'm gonna grab this little color here, and I'm gonna hope that that one works a little better. Here's my truth. The thing is, oh wow, that's just so much fallout, okay. But this color is much better than the last. So I'll take it. I'm gonna put that on my outer corner and my inner corner because I can't stop doing halo eyes. My feelings towards canceling brands is that it's important. I think it's important for consumers to feel that they have a voice, and I think it's important to, you know, call people out and call companies out on their kind of shitty behavior that we shouldn't be tolerating. However, I think as an influencer, sometimes it's a little bit difficult because people want you to cancel every brand. And my honest belief is that if we knew everything about every person behind every brand, we wouldn't fucking support anyone. And that goes beyond makeup. That's like cleaning supplies and food and like just everything. 99.9% of the population has done or said something problematic at some point, has made some kind of mistake that we personally wouldn't agree with. And I think that it's really, really easy to say what you would do or wouldn't do, and obviously there's some things that kind of are like way beyond the scope of what's appropriate. There's things that are just blatantly unforgivable. So I think overall, as much as people really like to kind of shit on the fact that we're all so sensitive nowadays and shit like that, I think that generally speaking, it's a positive thing that we're moving in a direction of being more kind of aware and conscious, and that we're being more empathetic even towards situations that may not directly affect us. You know, I don't think it's a negative thing that we're all kind of coming to realize the fact that other people live different experiences than us and are kind of catered to less often. Like, what's more heartbreaking to you? Putting up with people being too sensitive, or allowing things like racism and colorism and all that kind of stuff to continue in our society? I'll take people being sensitive. Someone said, how do you separate work from home when your work is at home? Great question. I'm gonna take this little color here. I'm a really big believer in kind of like curating your space. And I really feel like you can do this no matter how big or small your space is. I think a lot of people tend to kind of clutter their spaces, or they do certain tasks where they shouldn't. For instance, like when I lived with my parents, I only had my room. Like, I had this tiny little room and that was it, and it didn't really have a ton of space in it, but I had my desk and then I had my bed, and that was literally it in my room. And I would always edit in my bed on my laptop, and I would do like all my work stuff, like answer my emails and stuff like that on my bed on my laptop. And I felt so stressed all the time, and when I went to bed, I had a really hard time kind of like focusing on anything other than work, and I just felt like I should get up and answer that one last email or do that one last thing or whatever kind of thing. Felt like the biggest thing for me was just kind of saying, okay, no, like my bed is for sleeping and relaxing and reading and stuff like that, and my desk is where I need to be doing all of my work. So I think even if you're in the position where like you might be in a really small apartment or a dorm room where you're living at home with your parents and all you have is your room, I think it's just really important to separate your workspaces from your live spaces, and that is the biggest thing kind of subliminally that you can do, I feel. And aside from that, I just try to set kind of like work hours for myself because I am working from home. I think that a lot of people, and again, especially creatives and people who are working kind of at their own place, they really tend to just kind of like work, or they'll like wake up and kind of like lounge around and whatever, and then they'll like work super late into the night, and just kind of have their schedule all over the place. And I think the biggest thing is saying, no matter what time you want to work at, like if you're more productive at nighttime, that's fine, but I think that people need to set actual working hours. So I think it's just important to kind of set those hours so that you do kind of have boundaries where you're like, no, I'm putting my work away now. I'm gonna take this center shade and I'm gonna put it over top of that little shade we did. Someone asked who has influenced me the most positively. Ooh, I'm actually gonna go over this with my finger, I think. because this is kind of looking like more of like a topper shade. I think that my parents influenced me really positively throughout my entire life because my parents are just like the most hardworking people I've ever met. And they're also people that really believed in like not judging others and like not talking poorly about others and stuff like that. And my parents, I just felt like they never like judged anyone that I brought over. Like they never really judged my boyfriends unless they were real pieces of shit. They never really judged my boyfriends. They never like judged my friends. Like it didn't matter who I hung out with or who I was around. Like they just kind of accepted that like people are people. So I definitely feel like they're a really big influence in my life. Another person I would say is my friend Shaylin. If you've been following me for a long time, you probably know about her already. But Shaylin is like one of my closest friends from high school. And I just feel like she taught me so much about like not being judgmental of other people and stuff like that. Like I feel like I used to look down on everyone, and not even because I thought I was better, but just because like I almost like wanted to like drag down people with me in my mind at the very least. And I feel like Shaylin is just someone who like sees beauty in everyone, sees everyone as being completely equal. She doesn't think that like any one person is less valuable than the other, and I think that that was something that I really gained from her. And then I think my friend Alyssa, she is another one of my good friends from high school, and she is just like such a like bizarrely positive person, not even in an annoying way, but just like she just kind of rolls with the punches sort of thing. And she really helps me to like put my life back into perspective when I feel like super low about things, or like things like couldn't get worse and stuff like that. Like I feel like she really helps me to kind of just like pick myself back up and just like feel better about what's going on around me. So I'd say those are the people that have influenced me the most, and I don't know what to do with this fucking eye look anymore. Okay, I'm going to be mixing two eyeliners together by kind of just like layering them. So I'm going to be taking the Urban Decay Alkaline Liner and the Urban Decay Vice Liner because I want these to be together. This one's too red, this one's too bluey purple, but together they shall make the perfect creation. So I'm going to take Alkaline first, and I'm going to kind of line my lower lash line with that. Someone asked me while we're doing this if I had any tips for lasting relationships. Now, I personally really enjoy being in one relationship for about a year, having it be as miserable as possible, and then leaving and never talking to them again. But I think the biggest thing I've learned from being in all the relationships I've been in is the ability to compromise. I think when I was younger, I really felt like my boyfriends should just kind of be catering to me because I was the girl, because I felt like I was such a great girlfriend that I didn't need to be doing anything else. And I think it really came down to me coming to a place where I was like, okay, like I need to be willing to like be there for my partner as well. So being able to recognize when you're wrong, arguing for the sake of coming to a solution rather than just arguing to get your point across. And I think the other big thing is not being afraid of confrontation. I feel like a lot of people feel like if they argue with their partners, then they shouldn't be together. And I'm not trying to like come here and say that it doesn't matter if you guys argue every single day. Obviously, there's a difference between like toxic relationships and relationships where you guys are going through a rough time. I'm gonna take that kind of deep color here and I'm gonna buff out my lower lash line with it. But I feel like a lot of people, especially because divorce is so prevalent now, I feel like a lot of people feel like if they argue with their partner that they're not meant to be together. But I think the biggest thing is that if you're dating because you're planning to be together long term, you need to recognize what that actually means. And at the end of the day, like if you're planning on being with this person for a really long time, think about all of the ebbs and flows of life. Like, okay, pregnancy, marriage, getting new jobs, moving, losing job, money problems, health problems, like all of these things that can happen in your life that can kind of be like considered low points or stressful points. And think like there's no way that you're gonna go through your entire life without getting into some kind of argument with a person. And an argument doesn't necessarily mean that you guys aren't meant to be together or that you guys aren't good together. It just means that you have something to work through, and sometimes you're going to be able to work through those things and sometimes you aren't. I'm gonna take that pinky shade there. But someone said to me once that you're not going to be in love every day, so you need to make sure that on the days that you're not in love that you guys are still best friends. And I think that's the biggest thing. Like if you're going through kind of a rough point, it's not the end of the world. It might feel like it in the moment and you might end up like questioning everything because that's so like classic to do. But just really think about what your life is. Like, do you still want to be around that person even when you're mad at them? Do you still kind of like, are they the first person that you want to call or talk to when you're having problems? And you know, I think that that's kind of what's important. I'm gonna pick up this color here. Oh, this is the color I've been waiting for. Oh, beautiful. I'm really packing that on because I just think it looks so nice. I'm even gonna take a little bit of that down the center of my lid because I'm a crazy bitch. I can't be stopped. All right, you guys, so that is the finished eye look. Someone asked, who is my maid of honor going to be? I'm gonna be using my Charlotte Tilbury Film Star Bronze and Glow in medium dark. So we are not doing a wedding party. This will just be like my whole like wedding update. I'm not sure if I've touched on it yet on YouTube. I'm sure I have, but here it is. We're doing a small wedding. We're planning on having around like 30, maybe 40 people tops. I'm not having a maid of honor or any kind of like bridesmaids or anything like that. Because we're having such a small wedding, we don't want to have it be something where like half the wedding is standing up with us. And the other thing is that we just want people to kind of be able to enjoy themselves. We don't want anyone to have any kind of like responsibilities or feel like they have to be doing anything in particular other than just enjoying their time. We want the ceremony part to be really short, like quick, like yes, love you, great, let's get the fuck out of here. And like the taco eating part, not in a sexual way, in an actual taco way, to be long. So yeah, that's pretty much it. We were originally planning on doing our wedding kind of like a destination wedding, but we think we might be doing it somewhere in Vancouver, possibly out on Vancouver Island, which is where we got engaged. We're not really 100% sure yet. We really haven't started planning too much because we just are fucking bad at shit like that. So yeah, I wanted to use this. This is from Flesh. It is called the Flesh Pot Eye and Cheek Gloss in the color Disco Nap. It's kind of like a little champagne-y sort of color. I just wanted to like try and dabble it on my cheeks. Someone said, do you think your job is worth all the negativity and judgment from other people? I'm just gonna grab this on my little ring finger and I'm just going to, oh, this looks very glossy. I'm just gonna go for it. I'm crazy. It's really hard. I feel like it differs from week to week because some weeks like I'm not dealing with as much and other weeks I'm dealing with a lot. Like it just really depends on kind of what's going on because there's some weeks where it's so bad that I'm like, this is like borderline unbearable and no, I wouldn't say it's worth it. But ultimately I do feel like the good outweighs the bad and it really comes down to, again, like my own kind of coping mechanisms because I think that any job is going to be difficult. It really just depends on how you choose to go about kind of trying to make things better. So I feel like when I'm taking good care of myself and when I'm, you know, being really good about like eating well and working out and, you know, taking time to relax. How do I feel about this? I don't know. Let me just double check. Oh, I feel very positively about that. That is lovely. Yeah, I think that on the weeks that I'm taking care of myself, I'm really totally fine. Like it doesn't bother me very much. I can totally cope with whatever's going on. And then on the weeks where I'm not taking care of myself as much, I'm like, fuck this job. I never want to do it again. So overall, I would say that yes, it is usually worth it. It just kind of depends what's going on that week. This is a fun thing I got in the mail. This is the Pat McGrath Labs Blow Up Lip Fetish Sheer Color Balm. Oh, it's in the color Blow Up. It's a lip fetish sheer color balm. Okay, great. It looks like a little nude color, which I like. I feel like it might be a little peachy, but we'll see. Oh, very sheer. I really can't believe that my lips don't look like the model's lips that she shows online. So that is everything for me today, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something cool today. Thank you guys for sending in questions over Instagram. If you guys have any other questions that you want answered, ask me in the comments below. Maybe I'll respond back. Who knows? It's a toss-up. All right, you guys. Peace out.